Hi everybody, I'm Dawn. I'm your astrologer and I'm here to talk to you about the full moon total lunar eclipse, which occurs on May 26th or 27th, depending on where you are on the planet. This kicks off our eclipse season. An eclipse really activates and supercharges our future, our karma. It activates the lunar nodes, the north node of destiny and the south node of the past. And they serve to accelerate our future. An eclipse removes something, eclipses something out of our lives. And so it happens much like a regular full moon or a new moon, except that the energy is accelerated, it's heightened. Because the nodes are involved. And so this full moon total lunar eclipse is happening in Sagittarius at 5 degrees. We have the moon at 5 degrees of Sagittarius. So the sun will be directly across the chart at 5 degrees of Gemini. And so this is the Gemini-Sagittarius axis. And this axis will complete at the end of the year in our final eclipse, a solar eclipse in Sagittarius. So we have 2 eclipses in the summer eclipse window and 2 eclipses that will be occurring in November and December of this year. So we will have 4 this year. And this is a time where during this full moon, with the moon in Sagittarius, where our south node, our past is opposing and across the chart from the sun in Gemini, where the north node of the future is. So in Gemini, we have the sun, Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, which will station to go retrograde 3 days after this lunar eclipse in a conjunction to Venus and the North Node. So there's a party going on in Gemini, and no one loves a party like Gemini. Lots of conversation, lots of company. And so hopefully that will draw our focus up to that Gemini area. Gemini and Mercury rule the 3rd house of communication. So we will hear a lot of conversations, a lot of information coming in during this time. However, with this opposition from the sun and the moon during this full moon, it will be in a square to Jupiter and Pisces. And Jupiter is the ruler of this full moon. Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, the ultimate truth seeker. And so with Jupiter in a square in Pisces, what this serves to do is expand our ability to receive a spiritual truth that is beyond our comprehension. So the south node in Sagittarius, Sagittarius is the spiritual teacher, is the spiritual scholar, and it operates on a truth, a system that they believe is the truth in their life. And so what may happen during this full moon lunar eclipse is that the moon will illuminate some information, bring something to light that's previously been hidden from our view. And it should serve to eclipse a former truth out of our lives. Perhaps it is not really true anymore, or maybe it never was, this belief system that we've been operating on. Maybe it was ingrained into us from our teachers, from society, from culture. And perhaps we just had some incorrect information when we established this belief system. And so something will be brought to light to help us realize that that is no longer our truth. And this is huge because Sagittarius is very determined, and they've done a lot of work to come up with this belief system. It's not just an opinion. But this is to accelerate our growth. And so with this square to Jupiter and Pisces, we are really asked to expand our belief system in terms of what the spiritual realm can offer, the blessings that are available to us. And Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, is transiting in late degrees of Pisces, really emphasizing that Pisces connection. And so we have this availability to connect with the spiritual realm, to connect with our source energy, to open our mind to a new belief system that says blessings are available and they are beyond our comprehension. But something must be removed in order for us to allow new information to come in. The ability for a new mindset to come in is directly proportional to our ability to let go of something attached to the past. We are getting some help from this because Pluto, the powerful little planet of our soul's evolutionary growth, is transiting through Capricorn, the structures of our everyday lives, going across that past area that Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto really were responsible for dissolving over 2020 during last year. And so Pluto is not going back across this to cause us to relive it. Pluto is doing this to purge our personal power, for us to look through the rubble and ask ourselves, what is the lesson here? And now can I do to empower myself with this knowledge of the past, to release things from the past? And usually when Pluto is retrograding through an area like this, either we will do it or Pluto will do it for us. And so I highly recommend the softer, easier way, which is, to try to do that ourselves, to release these attachments, to have this awareness that perhaps this is no longer in alignment. And so we get that help from Pluto. Also, 3 days before this lunar eclipse, on the 23rd, Saturn, our taskmaster, our rules and restrictions and the guides that keep us, in line, stationed retrograde. So with Saturn in retrograde during this, we are really left to our own devices to see what safety nets we have to protect us. Do we have appropriate boundaries? And that's super important during this time, because there will be so much misinformation with this square to Jupiter in Pisces. We will see a lot of mistruth, a lot of miscommunication. So to have that discernment of spirit, that trust in our own self-mastery, our own ability to know what is in alignment with our values and where our boundaries need to be completed, erected, loosened, in order to protect our energy during this hyper accelerated time, with a lot of information being bombarded at us. And so Saturn's in retrograde, Pluto's in retrograde 3 days after Mercury will station retrograde, and we're in eclipse season. So we really cannot get a great idea of how to move forward. Mars, our action planet, is trining Neptune and Pisces during this. And so that really signifies that the best thing we can do to know how to move forward is to connect with our spiritual source. That is where we get into alignment. And right now, with all of these issues of removal, of review, of eclipse, and everything in retrograde, we really want to look to that North Node in Gemini. What does the North Node in Gemini say? It says explore different options, listen to different ideas, open our minds to doing something differently. Look at what's right in front of you that maybe perhaps you didn't see or didn't pay attention to, and connect with your joy. There's a lot of very creative energy with Venus and Mercury conjoined really tightly. And they will be exact 3 days after when Mercury stations retrograde. But Venus and Mercury in Gemini is very creative energy. And so what we could do is we could tap into our joy, connect with our joy, do activities that we used to love to do, that we've gotten away from because our responsibilities showed up, whether that's art or music or gardening or being in nature or hiking. Do that thing. That's how we connect with our future, by aligning with our joy. And Pluto will give us some help in this area as it retrogrades through Capricorn, because it will bring up some issues of past responsibilities, some commitments we perhaps are involved in still that are draining our energy, that we no longer value, that we're no longer vested in. And so perhaps during this eclipse window, we can remove that out of our lives so that we can be focused on what's really important to us now moving forward. And so there's this window of opportunity for 2 weeks in between the lunar eclipse and the upcoming solar eclipse in Gemini. And in history, in the ancient beliefs, and in our world, it's often been perceived that this 2-week window in between the eclipses is a time when the veil is really thin, when our ability to connect beyond the physical to the spiritual world is easier to access. And so we can really trust our intuition during this time, trust what we're sensing, trust if something aligns with our value system, if it really is our truth, trust our ability to discern through our own bodies. You know, Venus is the physical form, so grounding and being in nature and really bringing it back down to earth during this time when things are very foggy and very ethereal in nature will help us to stay connected to our reality that we really want to create, our perception, and to keep it as clear as possible. Because anytime you have a square to Jupiter in Pisces, this also expands our propensity to be drawn to escapism. And so being very mindful of that during this time will also be beneficial. And so with all of these energies moving through, we really want to pay attention to what's being removed. You know, what from the past do I no longer love? What am I no longer invested in? What no longer aligns with my values? And perhaps what truth have I always operated according to that is not true anymore? Eclipses are a reset to accelerate our growth. I was telling a few clients in eclipse readings this week that it's kind of like when you do an update and a restart on your computer, and then you completely reboot it, a hard reset. You just unplug that computer, and this 2-week window is kind of like when the computer's unplugged. And what it does is it allows like all of those old corrupt files that have been running that have viruses and are slowing things down to be discarded and moved out. And perhaps there are some faster running programs already available that we weren't even aware of that can now be implemented when that new moon eclipse comes in. And so that when we replug and restart and do this hard reset, it's accelerated. It's running more efficiently. The corrupt files have been removed, and now we have some faster running programs. We have some acceleration in our ability to use our time more wisely, which really is the ultimate goal and the possibility after we get to the other side of this, probably after December 4th. And so I just wanted to say that if you're not sure where this falls in your chart, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. We could take a look at exactly where Gemini is in your chart, where the nodes fall, where these eclipses are happening, and perhaps what needs to be removed and what tools you have available to help you navigate towards the appropriate area more efficiently. And so I am happy to be of service in any way, and I'm so grateful to have this time with you, and I wish you many full moon lunar eclipse blessings. Thanks so much.